Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Clarity series. Today, I want to talk about enjoyment, truly moving into enjoyment in your life. If you heard my last video, it was about perfection and the difference between the egoic created perceptions of perfection and the perfection of your soul, your essence, which is always there, and how you can live in that state of perfection. Now, that brings up a bit of a question. It has for me in the past, like, how do you live your life then? How do you constantly evolve if you're just sitting in this state of perfection all the time? And it really comes down to choosing enjoyment, joy. If you are on this journey of realizing your true, natural, real, authentic self, the self that you've always been, and how that manifests through the human form, you may have come to a point where you sit in your presence a lot. I've talked a lot about connecting with your presence, your isness, your true essence, the undefinable, formless, timeless self. And that is always, in my book, step number one, or the step that's always happening with whatever you're doing, bringing that always into everything. But from that place, how do we take action? How do we live our lives? If you're not trying to fix anything, if you're not seeking perfection and you're already perfect, how do you live your life? I wanted to make this video because some of us on this journey, myself included, get kind of stuck in this spot. I spent many years doing nothing, and that's not a bad thing. Like I've said before, as much time as you need to connect with your presence, your isness, your beingness, just be in that space of awareness and not engaging with your thoughts, your mind, the outside energies, take as much time as you need. That's going to be unique for everybody. Obviously, you always have to listen to your voice and your intuition and follow your heart. But for a lot of us, it's beneficial to take that time and spend time there and sit there. And as you sit in your presence, in your awareness, again, being the watcher of the mind and the thoughts and the energies and everything that's playing on out here, the old conditioning, the old habits, patterns, energies, emotions all start to dissolve away. Your true radiance of your heart grows, and the stuff that was not really you, was conditioned, was placed upon you, starts to dissolve away, and your clarity grows and grows and grows. So I quit my corporate job 8 years ago. It's 2013. And I spent 8 years doing a whole lot of nothing. But I wasn't doing nothing. I joke that when I wasn't working, I worked the hardest I've ever worked in my life. I mean, blood, sweat, tears, soul, every ounce of passion, motivation, inspiration that I could muster up and that arose from me. So I spent a lot of time connecting with this, and it's funny because to do nothing at first takes a lot of commitment because the energies, the emotions of the duality, of the 3D world, of the ego are very addictive, okay? And so to sit and do nothing, to step back and disengage and be the awareness of your body, your mind, your world, situations, events, that takes a firm commitment. And so do that as much as you need to until you feel clear, because eventually you expand and then your clarity grows. But one of the challenges for me was determining how to take action, when to take action, when all of a sudden the material world seems relatively unimportant. It's like, well, what to do? I went from having a lot of hobbies and being just like a super busy person to having really no interest in doing anything. And it's okay to, again, spend time in that space as long as you feel called to, as long as, of course, number one, it's always okay to do whatever you want to do, period. That's the beauty of discovering the sovereignty of your essence and your soul. But, as long as, we'll say, the basics are covered, hopefully you have a home and place to live and food and shelter, and you really come into awareness of what the necessities are. And it's not uncommon to spend a lot of time in that ground zero place. It's kind of that 0 point, ground zero. The old life is gone. A lot of the old energy, the belief systems are gone, and you're in that void. So what do you do from that place of perfection? Well, first of all, usually there's going to be some kind of a longing. This isn't an attachment. It's not a need. It's more like a passion, a calling. You may feel called, I'll use myself as an example again, to go spend time in nature, to connect with people, to create something. I went from working a corporate job for 22 years to teaching a little bit of yoga for those 8 years, or at least 6, 7 of them. And you'll feel a calling of some sort. Now, if you're not feeling anything, that's something to be questioned. The funny thing about our ego is it doesn't like change. It doesn't like anything new. The safety and the security, thank you, ego, for keeping me safe and secure. But safety and security is really built on a foundation of comfort, of knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, of having the ability to control the future, things like that. So anytime you go to expand into new things, you're most likely going to meet resistance. You might have a lot of excitement and passion to propel you through, but sometimes there's so much resistance, inner resistance, that you have a hard time even tapping into what you want to do. So going back to this enjoyment. When you're in that perfection, kind of the way I had described it was, in the perfection of your soul, there's really nothing to fix. There's nothing broken. There's no battles to be had. You're able to be sitting as, or aware, moving, doing as your essence, as awareness, and not attached to the outside world. So there's this space between you, between emotions, between identities, between agendas, ideas, thoughts. And in that space, you have a much bigger perspective, much wider perspective of your whole life. Kind of like the bird's eye view. You can see the whole thing at a glance. And from there, rather than trying to fix, change, perfect anything, you can choose very consciously how to bring more enjoyment and joy into your life. The first choice, like I said, about being in awareness, that's kind of a given. That's like the foundation. Beyond that, the second choice, just to, don't quote me here, but the next choice would be to always live in alignment with your soul, your essence, your heart. I choose always to be in alignment with pure source creator consciousness, with that highest aspect of myself, which is always going to be benevolent, kind, honest, open, clear, direct, compassionate, wise, and again, having that bird's eye view, having no attachments to anything. So being in alignment with that true self. Now that, of course, is going to create this desire, longing, passion, urge, whatever, to have more joy, beauty, and enjoyment in your life. To see the beauty in everything and to create beauty, to choose love, beauty, embracement, to choose unity over separation, because that's really your heart, unity, as opposed to the ego, which separates and divides. So, how do we create enjoyment? How do we create beneficial change? Well, the first thing is really to go back, kind of like the perfection thing, and realize that there's nothing to battle. You step beyond perfection, you step beyond the old. So we don't try to go back and fix anything. You actually realize that nothing is broken. Part of the beauty of aligning with your true essence is you look at all these egoic aspects. So let's talk about the perfectionist ego. You'll welcome that forth and have the ability through watching and being present to see what it was built of, how it was created, why you created it. After I made the perfection video, I had a cool glimpse of a lot of the underlying energies and journeys in the perfection ego structure, in that construct. And a lot of it had to do, if you consider other lifetimes when maybe you were living in a hierarchy, you were a slave, you were working for somebody, you were living in a place or a tribe or whatever type of culture you lived in, where you had to conform and you had to act a certain way and you had to be a certain way. Well, most of our perfectionist energy comes from things like that, where we had to be perfect, we had to behave. Maybe as a child you had to behave. If you opened your mouth and got in trouble, you might get a spanking or get yelled at or scolded or whatever. So these energies were not created mistakenly, okay? So step one is not to fight with any of this stuff, any part of your ego. You never, ever, ever, ever want to fight. You always want to honor and see the beauty in everything. That is vitally important. So you take a look at that, you see that, and then you can say, thank you. Oh my gosh, well, thank you. You have served me so well. You kept me safe. You kept me employed. You kept me climbing the corporate ladder. You kept me from, getting spankings or getting my butt kicked from the teacher or whatever it might be, okay? So any of these energies that you're dealing with, you want to see the beauty, see how they served you, and really honestly, not lip service, but honestly, thank them. And if you're ready to step beyond survival, that's when you say, thank you, your job is done. You've completed your mission. All right, and then you let them go. Now, we don't go back and try to fix, try to resolve, try to unwind, try to. The more energy you give to this thing, the more you bring it to life. It's sort of like exiting duality, okay? You don't fight your way out of duality. You don't join any fights, any struggles to resolve something. Everything that you fight, that you try to fix, you try to solve, you try to change, you are giving energy to it, okay? So you are putting energy into it and you are supporting the very thing that you want to let go of, okay? So don't fight anything. And this really goes, I don't normally talk about the world events, but you can see this in the world. The best way to exit, we'll say the best way to complement the world situations, which is very against what people are taught, so hope this doesn't trigger too many people, but the best way to do that is to go beyond it, to exit it. If everybody pulled their energy out of the fights, they would collapse and dissolve, and all of our energy could go into creating something new. So that's next. So now that you've identified this, you've thanked it, thank you, mission accomplished, bye-bye. Now, where do you want to put your consciousness? What do you want to create? Now that you don't have anything to fix, anything to perfect, anything to be better at, what would bring you joy? What would be fun? What would be fulfilling? It's really feeling into that. So we're not looking at improving ourselves per se, but we can bring more enjoyment into our lives, little by little. And, it might be something as simple as, I Love walking. Whenever I go walking, I feel free. It's like get out of the house, go out in nature for an hour, whatever. Listen to some music, don't. It's a wonderful, joyful feeling. Now, my old resistance gets into patterns. The mind is master of patterns and habits. It really is. It's kind of a cool thing to be so good at trying to suck you into habits and patterns. So when I start working, for example, it can be hard to pull away and go for a walk. If I'm engaged in this activity, it can be hard to really come into full consciousness and say, no, it would be better for me to stop and go for a walk right now. That's just an example, but whatever gives you joy. So take a moment. What have I done over the last week, month, year that has just been really joyful? Or maybe when I was a child. So rather than trying to perfect the old, you create a new. And that is always the way. We never change really our lives, the planet, truly change and move forward and evolve by trying to fix the old. You create a new. All right? So consider what would bring you some enjoyment, some joy, some fulfillment, and be discerning, because your ego, again, the beautiful, beautiful creation of survival, it itself wants to survive. It's like, when they talk about artificial intelligence and the worries about that, think of your ego. It basically is that. It was built to survive and to keep itself surviving. And so when you do things that are of the heart, the ego feels threatened. So your ego may try to pull a few fast ones on you, like, what do I enjoy? I really just enjoy eating chips and watching TV. Okay, I enjoy that too. But doing new things, again, remember, you will meet resistance. It's too hard. I don't have time. Is that really that fun? It's not. It's going to be too hot. It's going to be too cold. I've got work to do. What if this person doesn't like it? Nobody will do it. Look out for those excuses. All right. When you identify something or many things that bring you joy, be firm about bringing them into your life. Really, have some tenacity, be outrageous, do some things out of the norm. That goes fully into breaking down the ego. You're not fighting with it, you're creating a new. And it might be like, no, trying to resist, trying to pull you back, trying to suck you in. Like, no, we need to stay here where it's safe and comfortable. And I know what everything feels like, and I know what the outcome's going to be. And I know that tomorrow is going to be just like today. Even though I'm not super happy today, at least I know tomorrow is going to be just like today, and that feels very comfortable. So the new, I don't know about all that new stuff. It's probably not going to be very fun, yada, yada, yada. So watch out for that little ego, okay? All right. I think that's it. I hope you create more enjoyment in your life. If you don't, that's totally cool, up to you, but I just know that the enjoyment is priceless when it comes from your heart, when it comes from your soul. So take time for you, stay committed to your heart, your enjoyment, and live a life that makes you feel happy to be alive. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.